Anybody who's played the Until Dawn horror video game will be familiar with the Wendigo threat that the player has to encounter in the gameplay. These creatures are one of the primary antagonists in the game narrative, and if you haven't played the game, you can always check out the recently released movie adaptation that also features these terrifying creatures. Wendigos have been a staple in the horror genre, featuring in Stephen King's novel Pet Semetary and movies like Antlers and Ravenous, but Until Dawn throws in an interesting spin on these creatures. The movie only slightly resembles the video game, but the ominous monster presence makes it worth watching. In this video, we'll dive deep into the Wendigo lore from the video game and also explore the movie version, alongside all the unique features of its anatomy. What are the Wendigos, and what makes them so terrifying? The Wendigos have been portrayed with a slightly different origin story, courtesy of a more elaborate backstory in the game, and these creatures surely have a more detailed lore in the game version. They're basically victims of an ancient curse placed on Blackwood Mountain, and the Wendigos are twisted forms of humans possessed and transformed by the Native American spirit of the same name. We get the detailed information on this from the Stranger's Journal, where it's revealed that the curse of the Wendigo originated here within the Blackwood Mountains. The local Cree tribe regarded this mountain as sacred ground, and they neither hunted animals nor harmed the environment in any way, because they feared that such acts would offend the spirits inhabiting the area. However, all that was about to change. When the prospectors surveying the mountain back in 1891 discovered that the area was rich in tin and radium, they conducted excavations in the region. This awakened the first of the Wendigo spirits and unleashed a deadly curse upon the surrounding area. This began the journey of Wendigo possessions on the mountain, and the grandfather of the stranger who wrote the diary became a Wendigo hunter, tracking and capturing them. But there was one of these creatures that was superior to the others, and this one killed any Wendigo hunter who got close, including the stranger's grandfather. Meanwhile, the mining efforts continued on the mountain until 1952, when disaster struck. The structural weakness from the years of mining activities was ignored, and one day a cave collapsed, leading to several miners getting trapped inside. They had no food to sustain themselves, and rescue attempts wouldn't reach them until the next 3 weeks. The extreme circumstances forced them into cannibalism, as they murdered their companions and ate their flesh raw. Finally, out of 30 men who were trapped inside, only 12 of them emerged alive. After the rescue process, the survivors were taken to the nearby Blackwood Pine Sanatorium for recuperation, and they slowly transformed into Wendigos. Their transformation process was fascinating, and the staff kept them under observation until they finally broke free and slaughtered them all. These fully transformed Wendigos fled into the wilderness, and both the mine and the sanatorium were shut down by the authorities. The commercial activities in the region ceased to exist, and all that remained were the Wendigos running loose in the abandoned Blackwood Pines. The only one who stayed behind was Jack Fiddler, who tracked down each one of the transformed miners and captured them all. He trapped them inside the abandoned sanatorium and hunted any other Wendigo that appeared on the mountain. Many years later, in 1997, a movie mogul, Bob Washington, had the opportunity to buy Blackwood Mountain, and he went through with the plan, even though Jack repeatedly warned him against it. He built the luxurious Washington Lodge, and it was supposed to serve as a getaway home for Bob Washington and his family. In 2014, one fateful trip with family and friends went horribly wrong, and they were stalked by one of the remaining Wendigos. When 2 of them got stuck with no rescue options and one of them died, the other resorted to cannibalism, and this transformed her into a Wendigo. A year later, when a group of friends visited the place, the transformed Wendigo kills them throughout the night. This extensive Wendigo lore has been shortened considerably for the purpose of the film, which only talks about a mining accident and the effect on the survivors, who were made to go through the death loop repeatedly. The inclusion of the ancient curse and the history of the land might have offered some valuable insights in the Until Dawn movie, but the narrative skips on all that. This is mainly because of the introduction of the concept of death loop, which has been utilized to keep the gameplay alive, where a player could resume his game after dying. What do the Wendigos look like in the video game, and how different is the movie version? The Wendigos that appear in the Until Dawn video game are impossibly tall and lanky humanoid creatures that have a skeletal build. They have long, clawed hands and sharpened teeth, and their white eyes make them stand out from a general pale human appearance. In the movie adaptation, the Wendigos are tall, as they are supposed to be, and they also have long limbs and similar white eyes and sharp, pointed teeth. One of the Wendigos that appear in the movie is as tall as a house, and this is definitely taller than their video game counterpart that's roughly under 3 meters tall. There's an underlying similarity between the appearance of Wendigos in the 2 versions, even though some subtle changes have been introduced in the movie, which tend to expand on the Wendigo lore as well. Do the Wendigos possess a physical body? This is quite an interesting topic worth contemplating because we do see the Wendigos in their physical form. both in the game and the movie. However, as we've mentioned before, the Wendigos are basically a spirit that is immortal, and the physical form is only a manifestation of the same. The spirits do not have a specific material body, and the only time we can truly see their appearance is when a Wendigo is killed with fire and takes the form of a small fireball. A closer inspection even reveals the screaming face of the spirit. To what extent does the human anatomy mutate when one is transformed into a Wendigo? There is a remarkable change in the human body when one transforms into a Wendigo, and it is all a slow and painstaking process. The creature has a disfigured form, but it doesn't comprise the extent of their powers. Much of their original muscle mass is lost, and the limbs grow a lot longer. The overall appearance of a Wendigo, both in-game and in the movie, is skeletal, and the bones are rather prominent. They are also considerably taller than the average human, and they have a hunchback posture because of a disfiguration in their spine. The teeth grow longer and sharper, and the canines are a lot more prominent in the Wendigo. Their skin turns pale white, and so do their eyes, which almost resemble a dead man rotting away. Even their skin condition is grossly distorted, and some Wendigos have sweating acids, which strengthen the outer layer of their skin. Another major distortion that takes place during the transformation process is that they lose their hair and all gender characteristics. It's also worth noting that the Wendigos seen in the game retain their clothing that they wore before transformation. The movie doesn't necessarily follow this trend. Are the Wendigos bipedal? The most extraordinary thing about a Wendigo is that even though the creature is completely mutated and deformed in many ways, the power and speed of the beast are still remarkable. In fact, their twisted anatomy ensures that they can move on both 2 or 4 legs, as they require, which makes them bipedal and quadrupedal at the same time. They can be incredibly fast and are also capable of crawling on any surface. There have been scenes where a Wendigo has been shown to leap great distances in the blink of an eye, which makes them almost impossible for the victim to avoid. What is the extent of physical strength of a Wendigo? The Wendigos can be freakishly strong, and they can kill a human with their bare hands. Their brutish strength allows them to treat their victims as mere playthings that they can rip apart from bone to bone. They can lift the heaviest of objects effortlessly, and the stronger Wendigos can even kill the weaker specimens using their strength. One of the documents in the report found in the gameplay reveals that a Wendigo can lift 725-pound weights, which should give you an idea of what they're capable of. Are the Wendigos nocturnal? How does their vision work? The Wendigos have been portrayed as nocturnal creatures who hunt predominantly at night. Their predatory skills are next level, and they're capable of tracking their prey for up to several years. One of the reasons behind their success, even though they hunt at night, is their unique eyesight. It's actually a lot worse than humans, but it works very differently, where the eyes are more sensitive to movement. Any mobile object is easily highlighted in their vision, and while this is effective against prey that's running away, the one standing still might just avoid detection. Such a method of indirect vision also means that light is not a factor for Wendigos, and they can be great nocturnal hunters. How durable is the Wendigo skin? Not only are the Wendigos freakishly strong, but they're also incredibly durable, which makes killing them a very difficult task. Their skin is built like a strong armor, and they're almost invulnerable against ballistics and sharp weapons. They generally feel no pain, and only fire can cause them some trouble and make them vulnerable to other weapons. Other than that, small arms are repelled by the skin of the Wendigo, and even heavy firearms like shotguns and hunting rifles are only able to stun these creatures for a short period of time. The only noticeable impact of the firearms is that the heat burns away their thick skin. Such characteristics of the Wendigo remain largely unexplored in the movie, which could have been handled better just like the detailed lore of these creatures. Are the Wendigos intelligent creatures? When a human transforms into a Wendigo, they slowly become a lot more aggressive and lose their minds. But this doesn't mean that they lose all of their intelligence. Many of their human instincts and characteristics are retained, and it's been indicated that they even have memories of their past life in some cases. In the video game, the minor Wendigo form some kind of pack and behave like friends, never attacking one another, which suggests that they know about their common past. They do have a set of behavioral patterns, but these creatures are also capable of defying them if required. Their intelligent traits are evident from certain human-like tricks and traps that they can lay out for their victims. They can mimic the human voice to lure their prey, and one of the Wendigos in the gameplay even keeps the heads of her decapitated victims as trophies. The best way to describe the psyche of a Wendigo is that the creature has certain mindless animalistic tendencies, and also the intelligence required to stalk and hunt its prey. They're also fiercely territorial, and the nature of their aggression and violence suggests that Wendigos are somewhat sadistic in nature. Will a human be transformed into a Wendigo if the individual is bitten or scratched? Fortunately, the condition of turning into a Wendigo doesn't work like the zombie virus, and getting bitten or scratched doesn't transform one into a Wendigo. The only way for the spirit to take over and transform a human body is if the human resorts to cannibalism in some form. presumably in an extreme situation that has already weakened and damaged their psyche to begin with. However, once the transformation is initiated, it is an irreversible process, and there's nothing that can be done to change the fate of the human. Can the Wendigos be killed? They're extremely difficult to kill, but not entirely impossible. Fire is a major weakness of these creatures, and they tend to stay away from any form of fire, fearing the damage it can cause them. However, even though fire can destroy the physical form of the Wendigo, the spirit is effectively immortal, and breaks free after its death, waiting to possess the next victim. For this reason, it's advised to use fire to kill Wendigos only as a last resort. How different is the role of the Wendigos in the movie adaptation? The movie adaptation has made some significant changes to the story of the video game, in order to make it more cinematic and ensure that it stands out. In the process, the role of the Wendigos in the movie has been slightly altered. They are one of the many monsters that appear in the movie, and make sure to check out our video where we cover every single one of them in detail. They first appear on the 4th night, and in the movie lore, one turns into a Wendigo after dying 13 times in the death loop. The protagonists endure the terrifying Wendigo encounter as they try to escape the fateful guest house. They even notice certain bodily changes after the first few deaths, and start to show signs of growing fangs and hair loss. When they finally survive until dawn, they're free from the transformation process. In the movie narrative, one doesn't need to resort to cannibalism in order to change into a Wendigo, and the repeated gruesome deaths in the death loop cause the transformation. Since the Wendigos are the main villains in the game, they're probably scarier than the ones you see in the movie, where the Wendigo presence is diluted by the other threats that haunt and kill the protagonists. The biggest difference is easily the detailed backstory that the gameplay offers, which is much more interesting than the movie version. The reason behind shortening that bit might be to ensure that the movie doesn't drag on too long. But maybe the fans would have loved to learn about the origin of these creatures. Also, the movie makes it more about the human villain, and the importance of Dr. Hill in the plot is far more than that of any creature or monster. His sinister trap to experiment on the hapless victims is probably creepier than anything that you come across in the movie narrative. Until Dawn movie gives the Wendigos a psychological arc. The Wendigos shown in the movie are different from the ones shown in the game, and even their stories are not identical. Another reason behind this difference is that the movie narrative tries to humanize things, even though there's an obvious supernatural twist. The Wendigos in the film can be viewed as a representation of the fear, guilt, and anger of the protagonists. Basically, the darker aspects of their psyche. It's almost like they're fighting their own demons, and the Wendigo curse is simply allowing their inner psychological issues to take a form. Can Wendigos reproduce? You have to understand that the ancient lore of these mythological creatures of folklore is not just restricted to the Until Dawn universe. In the extensive lore, there are instances where a Wendigo can mate with other Wendigos, humans, and even werewolves. However, the Until Dawn universe has no such instance, and the Wendigos are not shown to reproduce. The only means of creation of these creatures is a gradual process of transformation. And once changed into the monstrous entity, there's no sensual urge in the creature and they do not reproduce. Marvelous verdict. Until Dawn never misses a trick with Wendigos. Not everyone is happy with the way that the movie narrative is so different from the game, and some have even remarked that the film should be treated as a standalone project that is not linked to the video game at all. However, while there might be some truth in this claim, the movie doesn't take a wrong step when it comes to the creature effects, especially for the Wendigos. They look sufficiently terrifying, and the story behind them is also quite disturbing, especially the constant threat of the protagonist becoming one if they're caught in the death loop for too long. The Wendigo presence is what makes the movie different from a generic creature feature, and is probably the strongest throwback to the video game than any other element in the movie. Now that the movie has set up a potential sequel, it'll be interesting to see how the Wendigos are used next, and with the right story to do them justice, we aren't complaining. Do let us know in the comments what you think of the Wendigos that show up in the movie, and also tell us which version of these creatures you like better.